All right, hello to our YouTube audience. I am Dayne Young from UGAsports.com. On the line, we've also got Jim Donnan, former UGA head coach and College Football Hall of Famer. And at Neyland Stadium, we've got Radi Nabulsi. Georgia wins over Tennessee 43-14. And we'll start, Coach Donnan, by getting your thoughts from what you saw from the Georgia Bulldogs tonight.
Well, anytime you can get a win on the road that decisive, you've got to be happy with it. Certainly there's things that you can kind of pull apart if you want to be highly critical. But from my standpoint, I thought our defensive football team made some really good adjustments there. And even though we didn't, put the quarterback in a sack situation till the end of the game, we put enough pressure on them and really disguised our coverages and played the ball in the air a lot better after the first couple quarters there, where they really, attacked us, ran a really good route on and confused our coverage a little bit on the long touchdown, and then the one on the goal line. We just didn't break on the ball good enough. But I thought our offense was a lot more productive from the standpoint of being wide open, getting the ball to our playmakers. We didn't convert a couple times in the red zone, but we always got 3 points, which was critical, early in the game because it kept us close. So overall, I would say, a big win, carry over after being off for a week. We had a couple bad penalties, but had a bad injury there. It looked like to Davis, but from what I understand, listen to Radi and the people up there, maybe it's just an ankle sprain. It's not as bad as what we've seen with Wilson or Kinley. So, rather than ramble on, I'll just say that I'm real happy that we're 5-0, and I've seen some teams that struggled today that are supposed to be highly ranked teams that didn't look anywhere near what we did.
Well, I think that's a natural segue, Radi, to get some injury updates from Neyland Stadium from you.
Yeah, from what we understand, we saw Jordan Davis go down. He got really worried. And when he came back out of the tunnel, apparently they went in and did a quick X-ray of him. From what I understand, the X-rays are negative, and he's going to be, I don't say fine, but it wasn't as bad as it looked. I mean, when he came out from the tunnel, he was on crutches, and he had this big boot on. But he was actually giving grief to the Tennessee, grimacing. It looked really bad, but he was smiling and kind of just jawing with him on his way back. And we understand that, I think it's a situation where they're like, look, you're injured. You really can't go. And Julian came in and, I don't say saved the day, but gave them that push in the middle, take away that run. I mean, Georgia still has yet to give up a rushing touchdown. I don't know of anybody else in the league, in the nation that can say that. Kirby Smart said that was a good play call, and he said it was a good play call into a good defense. So he was happy with the defense that his side had called, and he also gave James Coley credit for calling a good offensive game, and said Dan Lanning's the call to blitz Eric Stokes off the edge that resulted in that sack fumble, the scoop and score by Tay Crowder. He's spreading the praise around, if you will, because he was very pleased with how his guys called that game. But it was a situation where, Tennessee did some things that we have not seen before. He said they ran some coverages we haven't seen. So, therefore, it took them a while to adjust. But the theme of his post-game press conference was, we made adjustments. Our guys were tested. He said they hit us in the mouth, and we responded. And that's what happened. The Tennessee came out. This place was, people talk about a lot of Georgia fans. This was not the takeover that you saw in Nashville. This was a situation where there were a lot of Tennessee fans here. They were very loud and still out here. And, it was a tough environment. You had some young guys out there. They made a few mistakes, but they bounced back. And this was not a nail-chewing Kirby Smart that you saw after the game. You saw a guy who's like, we got tested, but, they pulled out a very impressive win here in Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I would point out the fact that he's talking about the route into the coverage. If our fans will watch the game on a replay, you'll see that Daniels, our corner on that side, normally our corners play a squat technique or play bump and run, press man or bail out. But in this case, we ran a little bit of an invert look into the boundary where the corner is, basically taking away the slant but the ex receivers got a pretty feet are saying, and I got to give that Meyer kid credit. I mean, he passed more yards in his first start than Peyton Manning did the first time he ever played against Washington State. So I'm not saying this kid's Peyton Manning, but he's got a good arm and he's tough. And they've got some excellent receivers. I guarantee you, Juwan Jennings can play for anybody.
And one of the observations that I had too is, you heard Brian Kelly after Notre Dame say that they weren't ready for the crowd noise that existed at Sanford Stadium. You heard Gus Malzahn say the same thing today, that they didn't handle the crowd noise well against Florida. And I know that Neyland Stadium doesn't have exactly that now, but Radi, you were there. You said it got loud in that first half when Tennessee was rocking early and kind of surprising some people. What was the atmosphere like in the stadium?
It's typical of Neyland Stadium. It's loud as hell. It's after the game. It's still loud in this place. It's a situation where, okay, you didn't have every seat filled, but it's 100 something plus thousand Tennessee fans here. So let's say if you were down 10%.
They had 92. They had 92,000 announced.
I was just about to say, if you're down 10%, you're at 90,000 plus. They had 92,000 screaming Tennessee fans here. Maybe 8,000 of those folks are Georgia fans. This place was sideways. It was loud as hell, and Georgia had to not a great situation for the offense, and they struggled with that. But here's the thing: the offense got off to a great start right off the bat, but they just kept bogged down a few times and had to kick field goals. But hey, you got an automatic field goal kicker. You took those points, and you just kept putting that distance between you and Tennessee bigger and bigger, so that it's like, okay, now it's 2 scores. Now it's, to tie it up, you need a field goal and a touchdown. Now you need 2 touchdowns. Now you need 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Now you need 3 touchdowns, And all of a sudden they had to throw the ball. They didn't have time to do all those little quick hits. And it was just a good chess game back and forth with, each time Georgia responded. And the offense did really well.
I don't know how much we got hit in the mouth and we got hit over the top there. But
he said it on that one play. He said, we got hit in the mouth on that play. And so, it was, it was the place went really loud when that happened. And right after that, it was, that was about it.
We got hit from the standpoint of getting behind. But I'll tell you one thing today that was impressive to me. Our pass protection was outstanding. I mean, Fromm was hurt a couple of times, and he made a tremendous move there to hit Swift down the boundary. But, we really did a great job with our different kinds of actions with our backs and setting up the play action, and then just the pure drop backs. And our screen game was outstanding. We had a screen that would have been a touchdown when we ended up with that penalty in the end zone on Landers. Didn't really take the shot on this kid to Robertson, and we had a motion penalty on Pickens, which is, you can't. A lot of flashes of a very explosive team that got a lot of potential there. And defensively, hopefully we'll get some good reps in there for Daniels, and hopefully we'll get Campbell back, and our secondary will really be rocking and rolling.
If you're watching along with us on YouTube, feel free to drop us a question in the live chat, and we'll share it with Coach Donnan or Radi or myself if there's something you specifically want to hear about regarding Georgia and Tennessee or Georgia's season in general. Coach, you did mention, and we'd heard this all week, about the offense opening up, and I've heard you mention a lot about James Cook. I saw him used in a variety of different ways. Specifically, what did you see about Georgia's offense opening up? What did Georgia do differently?
Well, I don't know that we had a pure open up and pass happy team, but I do feel like we looked to throw the ball more maybe than we did run it. Particularly in the red zone a couple of times. 2nd 5 to me usually is a run in the red zone. We threw the ball several times down there, so you just got some guys on the perimeter that can do so many things. When you look at here in spring practice and Pickens, and you got Dominic National ball, and I did some good things. We still, even though Cook ways we can.
Kirby Smart and some of the players celebrating with the fans in the stands, and that's pretty common for away games. But there was some jubilation on their faces for sure, that they understand what it means to win a game like this on the road.
There, those Citrus Stadium, and down, even though they were moving the ball. And you see he's got scholarship athletes too that made some big plays. When you go down the list, you see Juwan Jennings, 7 catches, 114 yards. Marquez Callaway, 3 catches, 105 yards. Those guys were catching passes and moving down the field. Tennessee was throwing the ball on you, and it was a test. The secondary was tested. Right, but to the stands, we get the video on our YouTube page. He saw, just to have a little fun. And because, again, I don't want to say relieved team, but a very happy team. And some of these young guys that Coach Donnan pointed out, those are kids that, this is new to them. So, of course, they're thrilled to death, So it was a lot of happy faces on the sideline.
It's the first time that Georgia has had the series lead against Tennessee since 1981.
Well, there you go. So,
at that point, Georgia was 9-8.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Coach, we do have a question for you from our YouTube comments. This is from Stephen Varecchia. He's asking, what did Tennessee do in their passing game that Georgia struggled with in the first half? And then what did Georgia do to counter that in the second half?
Well, they had a good mix of, what we call RPOs, where they faked up in the line and had a run call. And then if our backers plugged, they threw in behind them early. And, those are things that Coach Chaney has run against our defense in practice, and he knows how to, orchestrate things. And then the other thing they did, like I said, they ran a really good read route by their ex receiver for the touchdown. I think it was Callaway that, saw our corner was JoJo'd in a little bit, what we call squirm corner that was inside. And he went around him, and then he went inside him, and then he went back to the outside, and our safety bit on the post, and they hit the big one on us. So that's the route you run. That's what we call a zone beater against that kind of zone, and that was a perfect call against the right defense. I think Kirby mentioned that. But the other thing that they did was, they gave this kid enough time where he could throw it in there. Their other touchdown pass, they lined up in a 3-by-1 on the goal line and worked our inside safety enough that the other safety couldn't come over the top and play. And we thought he might get some help from LeCount, and he didn't. And Reed let the guy to the inside, and it was a good throw.
I mean, sometimes you just get – one of the things I noticed, too, was that their quarterback got the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. Even though that they did provide him a lot of time, it seemed like he was coached well to get rid of the football quickly, because if you don't, you're going to be under pressure.
They do what we call catch and throw there, where, you're lined up in the shotgun. And that's why you see a lot of times when you see a quarterback, and see a picture of a quarterback throwing the ball and he doesn't have the laces on his fingertips. The laces might be away from him. He's become ball without holding the laces. So they do a very good job of that, and we do too. Jake's really adept at that. He's very good at throwing the ball when he doesn't have the perfect grip. So I think that's one way you combat a pass rush, is just what you call the catch and throw, and don't even wind up or anything. Just use your quick release with your hand. Radi knows how that goes. You knew
yes, sir. I do.
You knew that grip, didn't you?
I did know that grip, exactly. Kirby was asked about that, and he said, "Look, because everyone wants to know, well, where's the pressure, Kirby? Where's the pressure?" And he says, "Do you understand that? If they know pressure's coming, they're going to get the ball out quick." He said, "We had pressure on a number of plays."
Realistically,
up on it, and that's real touchdowns, not field goals. So he was
well. We've already played a quarterback. Tennessee played their second quarterback. So we've got a chance to really get after these guys here the rest of the year. And they didn't make a first down 6 against a team that only made one first down to that point, but that helped them out a lot. But I think I like our team. I like what I see the rest of the conference, and we'll see how we rate the rest of the year. But I think things are looking up for us.
They do need to tackle better.
This
Well,
Sorry,
that's
go ahead.
probably, you're going to miss some tackles, though. I mean,
Yeah.
those happen. But I would say overall, we haven't.
Absolutely.
We gave up a really inordinately long big play, which you don't see much from Kirby Smart defense. So that hurt. But as you mentioned, we haven't given up a rushing touchdown in 5 games. So unreal.
only team in the FBS, potentially even the nation, to do that. It was Iowa. They gave up a rushing touchdown to Michigan earlier in the day. And
Hey, Dayne.
yeah.
I want to mention, I know Jake Fromm gets a lot of grief from people that the voters don't seem to, put him in the Heisman talk or anything like that. And, everyone wants to point that some of the other quarterbacks that have been at Georgia. I just want to read you his stat line real quick. Let's see here. Passing 24 of 29 for 288 yards, 2 touchdowns. So almost 300 yards passing, 2 touchdowns on the road, 24 of 29.
He was unreal. He was unreal tonight, and very, a couple times it looked like we were going to get delay a game too, and he got the snap off that were, the play was in late. The only really poor throw he threw was the Pickens on the goal line where he underthrew him a little bit, and I thought Pickens should have gone up with both hands on that. But when you can throw that many completions, I don't care if you throw them in a parking lot. That's unreal.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. Jake Fromm was, before the game started, he was out talking to everybody on the offense, defense, special teams. He was getting all his guys excited. He had his helmet off. When they were all walking off the field, he's talking to everybody. All these guys are coming up hugging him. I mean, if there's a heart and soul to this team, it's right there in number 11. They love this guy. And he, as the press conference ends, when we're interviewing, he runs off singing Rocky Top.
Yeah,
he wasn't trying to troll him. He's just ebullient with the win. To go back to your question about how was the team doing this, how was it taking it, they're bouncing up and down. It was a big win for them. I know some people got frustrated with the fact that Tennessee was able to throw. They threw for a lot of yards, almost threw for 300 yards. But look at the results: 14 points, 1 big touchdown.
Yards, but shut them down the second. And the other thing, that's going to help us is we got to win over a team. I don't see anybody beating Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's going to be in the top 10 all year, and we got to win over them already. Well, that's going to help the strength of schedule. I'm telling you now, particularly all of a sudden if Florida would beat LSU, and stranger things have happened. Who knows? LSU's defense is not that great, but Florida's offense isn't either. So it's going to be, can LSU move the ball on Florida and protect? But we got a chance. You got to think Auburn's going to really still be in the top 25. So our schedule's going to help us if we can run the table during the regular season and see what happens there in the championship game, because it's looking more and more to me like if you rated tomorrow morning, if you rated the top 4 teams in the country, I would go based on Ohio State, the way they beat Michigan State tonight. Ohio State, Alabama, us, and LSU. That's the top 4 right now, in my opinion. And you could flip it around any way you wanted to.
I agree with that.
That's just based on Clemson. It's not looked good. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from them, but they really struggled against North Carolina, and this show's about Georgia. But I'm saying Georgia, right to me, looks like we're right in the thick of the national championship situation. Don't you guys think?
Absolutely. When you can come up to an opponent's stadium, drop 43 points on them, and I said the same thing about the Notre Dame game. Notre Dame game and the first part of this game showed you where your weaknesses are, showed you the things you need to work on, but you didn't learn them in a loss. You didn't learn them in a situation where your team is sitting there with a W, and now you're hoping other teams lose, and you're rooting against Ohio State, you're rooting against LSU and Alabama and Clemson, and any of these other teams that are doing really well, because you're like, wow, we already got that one loss, and we need to see what's going on. Now, your team has was shown, hey, here's something you need to work on. Here's something you need to fix. And remember, Georgia's out there without Tyson Campbell, one of the best cornerbacks in that recruiting class that came in, 5-star guy. Eric Stokes, I thought, had a big game. That the hit that he had, his blitz, he batted away some passes. He knocked away some short ones. He knocked away some long ones. Daniel, as Coach said, he's getting experience. You know the things you need to work on. You're fixing that. And as this team gets healthier, I think that we get some of those guys back. And granted, other guys go down, but you're getting that depth. And Kirby keeps talking about, the games that are going to come out later in the season where you're going up against a team that's better, And he's been he actually said tonight something about eventually you're going to go up against a team that's some people take it as the way he was kind of condescending towards Tennessee. He wasn't. He was just saying that, there's going to be tougher teams out there. And you're going to have to be able to do X. You have to be able to do Y. And I see that he's making those corrections in practice. And we're seeing those the following week. We're seeing some of those corrections made. So I'm impressed.
Yeah, you just look comparatively speaking today. Kansas went up and down the field on Oklahoma. And Kansas has won like 1 or 2 games this year. And Oklahoma's a top 6 or 7 team. They scored 45 points. Utah State didn't do much against LSU. Florida won convincingly over Auburn. But, and then Clemson and Alabama were both off today. Ohio State was very impressive because they played against a good defensive team and, had a lot of almost 500 yards and 30-some points. So, but I just think we have a tendency to overreact and be a little bit critical, which is okay because we didn't look that great on pass defense, but we did a lot of good things today, and we weren't sloppy with the ball. And all the things we talked about on our show on the podcast on Tuesday, keys to the game. The only way that we would lose this game is if we lost it. If you couple the way they played in the first half and we had gone out there and not done much, like we did against Vanderbilt, against Notre Dame in the first half, that would have been really testy, you know what I mean? But we answered the challenge there and did some good things in the first half on offense to really make up for what our defense was lacking a little bit, didn't you think?
I think so, and I also want to add that you're going up against, a guy in Jim Chaney who knows your defense inside and out. He knows where your weaknesses are, and he knows who your personnel, are. And if anybody's going to call a good game against him and call the right plays, it's Jim Chaney. The rest of the teams you see going forward are not going to have that insider information. Now, I know that Kirby said, hey, that doesn't really matter. Guys have to tackle, guys have to block, guys have to do this and that. You can't tell me that it doesn't help that Jim Chaney spent, 3 years in Athens, was there on all those recruiting visits, practiced against these guys for years and years and years, knows their tendencies, knows their tells, if you will, and he came up with a good game plan but he just didn't have the horses. Georgia's got better horses. They went up against a tough game plan. They made adjustments. Well, I think they scored the last 33 points of the game. So, yeah, they came out with a good plan. They got you down a little bit. They had a lead. And then you pulled away for a very convincing win. So I'm with you, Coach. I'm not trying to say that there's nothing to criticize. I'm not trying to paint it all rosy. But I'm standing in Neyland Stadium looking at 43-14. And I know people want to nitpick it to death, but I'm like, do you realize what you just did?
Yeah, you can do that. That's part of the deal. That's part of the criticism is part of it. But, we are not all world back there in the secondary. We've got some good players back there, but Juwan Jennings is going to make some plays on you. That's just the way it is.
Hell, he beat you, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
The hardest thing to do is play pass defense because the other guy knows where he's going and you don't know where he's going, and you got to stop him. So if you're going out to recess and you're picking a guy, you're going to pick Juwan Jennings a lot of times over some of these guys that you want to play Red Rover against. I promise you that.
Well,
and also give me Marcus Callaway right after that.
Right.
There's something to be said, too, just for team identity, though, and how firm Georgia is in their identity. And what I mean by that is, a lot of fans may get frustrated of a slower start in this game, but Georgia is meant to wear down the opponent in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter with just overwhelming talent and depth and size and speed. And even before you get to that conversation about the depth at virtually every position, you've got a quarterback with no limitations. And, Coach, I love what you pointed out about how in the SEC there were so many teams on their second quarterback. Hell, Florida was on their third quarterback for a couple of series today because Trask sprained his MCL. Now you've got him on a sprained MCL going into Baton Rouge at night. That's probably not going to turn out too well. So you've got
I want to address.
You've got Fromm with no limitations, and you've got the most reliable scorer in the nation, and Rodrigo Blankenship, who remains perfect on field goals. That gets you.
I want to address one other thing here, Dayne. That we had a short yardage situation where we didn't make it tonight, and we ran it to the right, but we got beat on the left-hand side with penetration in the A gap. The guy came between Hill and Schaefer on the wheel, and it got penetration, and it didn't work. I was surprised we ran a play so quickly there. I guess we're trying to get them off guard, but we didn't seem like we were set to run it.
No,
it just didn't look good, and it
didn't from the field level either, Coach. It looked
like
wrong.
That I'm sure that we will rectify, but I think the one thing that you see with some of these teams and the inability to make first downs today killed Auburn. The first half they had 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 so many times, and so then they started kicking field goals, which after turnovers instead of going for touchdowns, and it came back to haunt them. So, even though we did get stopped the one time, I do feel like you don't start talking about what had happened last year and all that. Hey, this is this year. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, I always tell our players, you learn from your mistakes and work on it, but you can't worry about what happened last year. This is this year. We got some backs that can pile. I thought that run that Harrion made on the goal line was outstanding behind that heavy group we had. We put Cade Mays in at tight end there when Ben came in to spell him, and Ben was playing right guard. I really liked that look too. So, but being critical about our short yardage to me would be we lined up too quick and we really didn't. We might have outsmarted ourselves running so quick because I think they caught us off guard because I don't know that guy was supposed to be coming in the A gap. He was trying to move around himself and get set. So,
yeah, you're right, Coach. And I want to also mention what Dayne was saying, that identity. Kirby Smart mentioned the same thing. We wear them out. We wear them down. They can't go toe-to-toe with us for 4 quarters. A lot of people don't want to worry. They want to feel comfortable. And if it's not 35-3 by the end of the first quarter, people are going to start complaining. This was a situation where you're taking on an SEC team. They got scholarship athletes too. You talk about, your Dwan Jennings, your Marquez Callaway, Audrey Solomon, good players over there. And all of a sudden,
Nigel Warrior.
Had 10 tackles for Nigel Warrior, a guy that Kirby Smart wanted badly, tried to recruit him 2 different places. Almost came to Georgia, by the way. And you have a situation where they have some good players over there, and you're in a dogfight early. But then, again, you score the last 33 points because, as Dayne, your identity is, we can do this longer than you can do this. We can go harder at this than you can. We can keep bringing – and, again, you got guys getting hurt. We can bring in better players. Sometimes our backup player is better than your starter. And so you got a situation where the other team's working and they're at a home stadium. This will be a huge win. You're getting their best game, and you just wore them out. DeAndre Swift talked about wearing them out. Richard LeCount talked about wearing them out. Jake Fromm mentioned it. Like I said, Kirby did. So, yes, it is the team makeup. This isn't the team that's going to come out and hit, these crazy home runs. And I thought the little trick play there where, they go reverse one way, then go back the other, giving it to putting the ball in Tyson's hands. I thought it was a great idea.
The reason it was good because every time Cook runs a jet sweep and then he's running a jet sweep and he flips it back to another guy. That's great design there. But I'll tell you another element that I like tonight. Over 150 all-purpose yards for Swift. He didn't get 100 yards rushing, but he caught 70-some yards worth of passes. And out of the backfield, he's a golden. I mean, he can make first downs. The first one where we got stepped out of bounds and had to punt, you had to punt at that situation on that part of the field. And then the other one was where we went for the field goal there when we were up 12. And, that puts you in a position where they had to, we were behind the 8 ball a little bit because we went for 2. And, I think he was probably looking at going for 2 there to see how we could do it. I really didn't like that play very much, but I know he doesn't care what I think. But we were picking him apart, just backing up and letting him read the coverage, and then we lined up in a tight formation, let him roll out, and they put pressure on him. He really couldn't. That's the only time all night he couldn't get his feet set. And so that was one that they probably planned that they didn't realize that he was going to be able to pick them apart like he did. So that's hindsight there. So that's as close as I'm going to be to being critical tonight about lining up too fast on short yardage and then on the goal line going for 2. That go for 2 play, we probably need to put that in 6.
I also want to mention something that I've noticed from the sidelines. I don't know if they mentioned it in the telecast or not, but towards in that late third quarter, early part of the fourth quarter, when George is coming down the field, I'm watching Trey Hill get up, holding his side, holding his knee. I mean, he's just limping. Isaiah Wilson's hurting. This was a very physical game. There's a lot of, I don't say late hits, but it's very chippy out there. And this was a physical, hard-fought game. A lot of guys powered through. I don't say they were hurt. They weren't injured. This was a banged-up.
Even the officials got hurt.
Yeah, there you go. So this was a situation where guys were getting this was a very physical game. We talk about Georgia getting up here and just wearing them out. Yes, but that is a like a 3% body fat athlete across from you who's lifted all the same weights you did, ran all the same steady steps that you did. Is a physical athlete, gifted, and you're going man to man. Eventually, you're going to wear them down, but it's not like you're playing, the Sisters of the Poor over there. That's a damn good football team, from a talent standpoint. And they're not as deep as you are, so their 11 versus your 11 is going to be a little bit tighter. But you were able to wear them out.
Everything's magnified by the Georgia State loss. But the difference in that game and this one tonight, they turned the ball over 4 times. They turned it over twice tonight, once for a touchdown and once for LeCount's interception. Those are 2 turnovers, right?
Yeah. Did Georgia do anything with that turnover? Or did they have to punt it back to them? The first one with LeCount's interception.
Yeah, the thing that's good about
they scored off that.
The thing that was good about LeCount's interception, though, was it came right after we didn't make it after we kicked the field goal, wasn't it, or something? I can't remember what time is it now? I haven't been up this late since Caesar went over to UConn.
Georgia having to get back to Athens. So, if the Dogs have to recover from that a little bit, South Carolina's had a bye week. It's just a short turnaround to get ready for what's going to be another physical game, Coach, with a team that's...
It would hurt us a little more if we'd played, 5 straight games. But we've been off a week. This is our first game, after a bye week. So, Kirby's, really done a good job of keeping tabs on how far we're running and all of that with all those GPS things they have. And like we've talked about on the podcast, our team can fly straight into Athens. They'll be here at 1:00 instead of 4:00 if they were going into Atlanta. And, tomorrow's an off day for the players. They just come over and lift weights and run on their own. But, I think we'll be okay on that. And South Carolina looked like they made a move last week to start running the ball more against Kentucky. And if they do that against us, I feel like that's something that we'll be really good against, stopping the run. They threw the ball up and down the field against Alabama, but they couldn't score a lot of points. So I'm sure they've got their own identity now, what they think would do best for them to win. But I like our chances against the Gamecocks.
Radi, I don't think you're going to be back in Athens by one, right? You've got a couple of Knoxville establishments to hit up, maybe, potentially? I don't know.
I'm not leaving Neyland Stadium until like 2 or 3. We got a lot of stories to do, so I'm going to, like Coach, I'm going to duck out here. I want to thank Coach Donnan for staying up with us and giving his insight. It always makes me happy to actually understand what the hell I just watched, and I can't do it my way. I got to hear it from the coach. Because even though I'm standing here, I don't see all the stuff, especially the schematic things that I just missed and I don't know. So, Coach, I appreciate you staying on with us.
Yeah,
it means a lot.
Enjoyed it. And, I got the benefit of watching some of these replays, too. And then, at halftime, since I've started doing this, I've started taping it and then going back and look at the first half while the halftime's on and watch a little bit more. But overall –
always a tape hound.
Overall, I really feel like our team has so much that it can, like Kirby's talking about, we can improve so much in so many different ways. But I'm really excited about what I saw out of Robertson tonight. I didn't talk about him. I had some notes over here I'm looking. But when you see that acceleration that kid had when we caught the ball the first time, and then the second time, a well-conceived route where we snuck him in as the inside receiver and then ran what we call a banana flag where he, really doesn't run straight to the flag. He gets kind of bananas out away from the flag. And he definitely got a banana split out of that one, I promise.
Oh, God. All right, that's it. Cut him off.
All right, that's it. Thanks for listening to our show at UGA Sports. We've got plenty of great content. Thank you, Radi. Thank you, Coach. And we'll see you next time.